You're listening to the Midlife Ripening Podcast. I'm your host and your trusted midlife midwife, Brooke Hofstess. This is a space for real talk, soul talk, about living a life that's fully, finally yours. We're here for the second bite, the luscious, conscious one, the one you take not because you're supposed to or expected to, but because something inside you says, this is mine to savor. You've built the life, the career, held the family, the calendar, the entire ecosystem of care. And yet something deeper is stirring, a want, a whisper, a truth you're ready to name. Here we'll explore creativity, rest, desire, play, rooted confidence, and the holy audacity of being yourself. If you've outgrown the life that once made sense and you're listening for what's next, come closer. Midlife isn't a crisis, it's a coming home. Let's slow down, feel our way in, and begin again. Hi, love. I am back from a bit of an unexpected break from the podcast. If you read my email series, Second Bite, you know that life has just been asking a lot of me lately, and one of the ways I support myself in seasons like this is to take things back to the basics. If you're not signed up for those weekly letters and you'd like to be, I'll link the sign up in the show notes for you. Today, I want to talk about betrayal, how it shows up in midlife, how to get curious about it, and why it matters for women in this phase of life. Okay, love, I'm so happy to be back, and I'm so glad that you're here. Let's dive in. So, have you noticed the betrayal list trend floating around social media? People naming all the ways life has betrayed them, from uncharged phones to slow internet connection to the grocery store being out of oat milk again. It's funny and maybe a little ridiculous, and yet something about it really sticks with me. Because underneath the humor, I think what's really happening is something about how our small individual frustrations become communal. You know, you see someone post about socks with holes in them and you nod. It's sort of a shorthand for, I see you and I feel that too. And maybe it's a sign of something deeper. Maybe we're in a moment of collective longing to voice what's hurting us, big or small, and to finally say out loud what we've been carrying alone for years. As someone who helps women in midlife turn inward, to listen, to reclaim, to remember who they are beyond what they manage, I can't help but see this trend as a bit of an invitation, if a cheeky one, a permission slip to finally say the thing that's been on your mind and on your heart. Because can we just be honest that women in midlife have been and continue to be betrayed by a culture that gives us short shrift and by the ways we've learned to betray ourselves in order to survive that? Okay, so you might be thinking, Brooke, it's not that deep. It's just socials. But bear with me. I think there's something here for us. I really do. Okay, so here's what I see when I look around. A culture that celebrates our competence as women more than our creativity, our ease, our innovation, our risk. I see workplaces that reward exhaustion and call it excellence. Self-care routines that distract us from the care we are really, really needing from others. Beauty ideals that ask us to disappear as we age. Productivity messages that make rest and relaxation feel like failure, like being behind. Self-help rhetoric that tells us, you're the problem. You need to be fixed. I see a world that measures our worth by how much we give in terms of quantity, not by the quality of how we give our gifts in service of a better, kinder, more just world. Okay, so that's one list, culture's betrayal list, if you will. But I've got another one, and at least for me, this one hits a little closer to home. So here are some of the things on this list. It's just going to be easier if I do it myself. Another thing on the list is putting work over relationships and calling it a busy season. Thinking our bodies can run on caffeine and discipline forever and ever and ever. Waiting for permission from someone else to say or be what we want. Saying yes so we won't disappoint anyone. Wondering if our new boundaries will hurt the people we love. People that are also exhausted and trying so hard. Here's something else on the list. Believing that getting organized will finally make life easier. Shrinking what we really need because everyone else's needs feel louder, more urgent, more important. Avoiding or delaying our delight or following our true passions because it feels selfish or frivolous. We wonder, well, who am I to do that? And we tell ourselves there are so many more important things to do. And believing this is just my job now, to be responsible, to show up for the people who are depending on me. And pretending we don't actually need what we deeply, deeply need and desire. If any of these are landing for you, please know that you're not alone. And this isn't an invitation to shame or judge or be mean to yourself. But it is an invitation to notice and to start to undo the beliefs that keep you betraying yourself if you want to stop. So the other day, I was mentoring one of my doctoral students, a bright, generous woman trying to get her work out into the world. And we were talking about publication timelines and hearing back from people. And I told her that she could probably expect to hear back after the semester ends because everyone's just so slammed right now in higher education. And in that moment, something really kind of tugged at me. And it was the strong memory coming in of an older version of myself. Because if I'm being honest, there was a time when I lived by those semesters too, when I'd wrap up one project or one deadline, and instead of actually celebrating and harvesting the accomplishments that I had created for myself, I just dived straight into the next list of things that I needed to catch up on. And that cycle didn't allow me to rest. It didn't allow me to pause long enough to even feel the value of what finishing important things actually meant for me and where I was going, let alone having time to ask the bigger questions about where I wanted to go. And so I just found myself on this kind of perpetual loop of busyness and obligation and not getting to the things that other people needed from me, right? And when I get curious about that, I can see the cultural pieces. I can see that somewhere inside of me, I believed that asking for space or reprieve would make me a difficult colleague, or that needing rest meant that I wasn't cut out for academia. I wasn't strong enough, dedicated enough, good enough, smart enough, all the things. And trust me when I tell you that my body kept the receipts. I'm talking about chronic hives, nightmares, anxiety that buzzed underneath my skin all day long, and obviously into the night since I was having nightmares. There was also this kind of persistent need to control what was never mine to control. And getting really irritated about how other people were showing up or the things that they weren't doing. Looking back, I don't think that the betrayal was sort of where we typically put it. It wasn't about time, having enough time. It wasn't about that. It wasn't really even so much about the institution's expectations of me. Certainly, there were pieces of that. I was held to specific standards. But again, if I'm being honest and if I'm being curious, some of the betrayal belonged to me and the belief that I wasn't allowed to stop. I'm no longer satisfied by the surface level analysis. I don't believe that these issues are only about time or only about the institutions or companies where we work. It's also about our own participation and consent in the betrayal. And coaching is one of the very potent ways I have found to actually undo those beliefs at the root rather than managing them or organizing them at that more surface level that I was just speaking about. So, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about why I'm starting to see that midlife is actually a perfect time to rethink betrayal. Both the cultural betrayal that we've been speaking about, the water we're all swimming in, and the way that we can often turn on ourselves as we try to stay safe in those waters. So many of us, the good girls, the caregivers, the disciplined ones, have let all of that carefulness override what we're actually here to do and feel and become. I'm just going to say that again. We've let being good, being kind and caring, being disciplined override what we're actually here to do and feel and become. And because of that, we've likely denied ourselves delight and ease and purpose. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to carry that into this next chapter of my life. I think it served me quite well in the first half of life until it didn't. And I feel like life has continued to ask me to do things differently. I'm curious if that resonates for you at all. It might show up as a feeling of, I can't keep going like this, or realizing that you started on one path and you've been drawn to study different things, but maybe this other thing that you're here to do, you didn't even know that it existed. And now you want to regroup and reconsider the tools in your toolbox and put them together in new and different ways. But you just don't know how or where to start. And I think at a certain point, at least for me, there comes this question of, okay, well, if not now, when? When are we getting to the good stuff? When are we getting to the thing that I'm meant to do? And also, can we just be honest that for as far as we've come, culture is still against us? So, this work, this midlife work that I'm all in on, it's not just personal, it's not just inner, it's political, it's cultural unlearning, it's dismantling the patriarchal capitalist conditioning we've internalized long before we had language for it, and long before we had tools and practices and communities to help us understand it and see how it's operating within us. And I just want to say that that undoing doesn't happen in isolation. It was built in community and it has to be undone in community. We need support of the circle. We need reminders that we get to live a different way. We need other women to show us that we are not alone. And we need those reminders because this betrayal didn't start with me and it didn't start with you. Maybe it started to show up in your family of origin or your spiritual community or your system of learning and education or your workplace. And then you start to see it in your habits or your self-talk. These are the echoes of something bigger. And again, it was made in community and it gets unmade in community as well. So I want to pause here, just check in. How is all this landing for you? To be in midlife is to know that time isn't unlimited. We've seen things end. We've lost jobs and marriages and people that were deeply important to who we are. And we felt that ache of loss, of lives cut short and days that don't come back to us. But here's the thing, the really beautiful thing. Being curious about where we've been complicit in our own betrayals isn't about shame. It's about being free and realizing that we can create safety and love and belonging in a different way, in a way that feels deeply pleasurable and honoring of our way of being in the world. Doing this work is how we reclaim our power, the power to choose, to say, oh my gosh, look what I did to survive. Look at everything I did to survive. Wow. And now I'm ready to live differently. I'm not there anymore. Midlife is in no way a punishment for our mistakes or having to see to fruition every contract we raised our hand for. It's a threshold. It's a becoming, a place where we can start again honoring and telling the truth of what we're here to say and do and become. If you've been around the podcast for a minute, you know that I love to close each episode with a seed, a little something that you can plant in your own context. And so today I've got a reflective question for you. You can take this question out for a stroll, or take it to your journal, or talk about it on a voice memo to one of your dear friends, whatever makes sense for you in your capacity and where you are in this moment. But here's the question. Where have you betrayed yourself in the name of being good, competent, or needed? You don't have to fix it or even forgive it. This is just about noticing. That's the hinge where change begins. And if you're up for it, I want to toss you one more invitation. Make your own midlife betrayal list. Name the ways that culture has sold you short and the ways that you've maybe even gone along with it, believing that you had to earn your rest, your joy, or your worth. And then maybe right beside it on the same paper, make another list, a devotion list, a loyalty list. What are you ready to be faithful to now? The people, the rituals, the desires, the small daily choices that make you feel like your favorite version of yourself. Now, of course, you don't have to share it, but if you do want to, find me on social media and tag me. I would love to see it. I would love to hear how you're relating to this episode, relating to the idea of betrayal as sort of an inflection point where we can shift from betrayal into agency and belonging and creativity. However you take this invitation up or not, what matters most is that you make space to hear your own voice, your own associations and challenges in relationship to what I've been speaking about today. That's how we turn our betrayals into knowing ourselves in a more honest and intimate way. Because this is what midlife makes possible, to stop waiting for permission and start living by our own devotion and loyalty. And before we close today, I want to invite you to go deeper with this work if you feel called, to take what you've been feeling here and bring it into a circle of women doing similar work. I will be hosting a free workshop called Unhooking from the Good Woman Myth. Stop censoring and finally say and be what you want. We are gathering on November 14th from 1 to 2:30 Eastern on Zoom. So you can come as you are. It will be reflective and real and intimate. The workshop will explore the myths that hold us back and practices that help us find a different way forward. So if this conversation stirred something in you, if you're tired of playing down your gifts, of overthinking, of being the one who holds it all together, come, let's do this unhooking work together. You can find the registration link in the show notes or on my website, and I would so love to see your face there. Until next time, may you be loyal to your aliveness, to your heart. May you rest where you once overreached. And may you remember you're ripening in your own time. See you soon. Thank you for spending this time with me and for making space to ripen in your own way, in your own time. If something landed with you today, Trust that it matters. And if you'd like to take what you've heard here even deeper, I offer individual coaching and small group programs for midlife women reclaiming their rhythms and desires. You can learn more at brookehofsiscoaching.com or join my email series, The Second Bite. And if this episode spoke to you, I would be so grateful if you'd leave a glowing review or share it with someone ripening alongside you. Until next time, tend your heart and take the second bite.